Look at that stuff. I want this. Have it. We got to get it.
My mom just got a bag of that, actually.
Is it good stuff? Good?
She says it's the best.
Is that the best?
She says it's the best.
If it is, I'll be in Washington, D.C., hopefully in the Oval Office. I'll send for popcorn. Okay?
Appreciate that.
I mean, why are you here? There must be a reason for you to be here.
Yes, I'm here to fight for truth and justice in the American way.
You're going to end up fighting every elected official in this country.
Sure you don't really mean that, Lois?
Hey, sure you don't really mean that, Lewis. Yeah, we're gonna expose and clean up a lot of politicians, not just in America but around the world, because Nicolas Maduro is just a start. He's the key to everything. Hey, I'm Nate Hausman, your guide to the 21st century, and I debated whether I was going to record this or do a live stream. I thought, fuck it, I'll do a live stream because it'll be up anyway. Hey, we got to talk about the fantastic military action that, brought in Nicolas Maduro, the illegal president of Venezuela, all the celebrations that are happening in Venezuela, and all the citizens and people in oppressed countries who are craving the same thing, including Australia and the UK. I'm not joking. So, and I'm not sure those people are joking either. So we're gonna go through a lot of Twitter posts about this because, I used to read articles from the web and I realized, Twitter social media posts are a lot more authentic. So we're going to get into this. So before we start, if you find this content valuable, please give it a like, subscribe on whatever platform you're watching this on, either Rumble, YouTube, X, Kick, or Odyssey, and share it with your friends and loved ones. And if you want to support this channel, I take donations, and I've got several referral partners and business partners, and we're going to talk about one right now. You've probably seen Black Rifle coffee at Walmart or in the cold brew section at the convenience store or any other corporate retail chain. Black Rifle purports to be a patriotic company supporting the Second Amendment, but they turned their backs on Kyle Rittenhouse. Phonies. Who can we trust not to sell out? If you want to support a genuine American coffee company that values your right to self-defense, choose Blackout Coffee. Not Black Rifle, Blackout. Blackout Coffee is endorsed by the Second Amendment Foundation. Their products are available online, like any self-respecting 21st century startup, and they just taste better. I know from experience. I treat myself to Blackout Coffee, and you can treat yourself by clicking on the link in my program. Again, that's Blackout Coffee, not Black Rifle. Use my link or my promo code for 10% off your purchase. Okay, we're going to start with this post by Oilfield Rando on X. He says, see that thing we just did in Venezuela? That's what I went into Minneapolis, Seattle, Sacramento, Austin, Boise, Columbus, Detroit, Madison, Raleigh, Atlanta, Lewiston, and Chicago, so many others. And I commented saying, when Maduro sings, he'll reveal foreign interference in our elections. That's a national security issue. That's grounds for the Insurrection Act. And that's grounds for military tribunals, because what have I been saying? We can't count on civilian courts to do the right thing. We've seen that all of last year, all of 2025. Hey, Happy New Year, it's 2026. We got to establish that a lot of our so-called government leaders are foreign assets, foreign traders, and that'll open them up to military tribunals because they become foreign enemy combatants. So let's get started here. I got several things to go through. Clandestine mentions this. Trump said they originally had plans to conduct the Maduro arrest on Christmas, but the operation was delayed due to weather. Trump and the U.S. military are sending a message. Washington crossing the Delaware was considered the psychological turning point in the Revolutionary War, which gave hope to the low-morale Continental Army and boosted enlistment and eventually led to victory. I think Trump and the U.S. military are sending a message. Now is when we start winning the war against the deep state. I think we've graduated into a new phase of the operation. A lot of people on the MAGA side have been complaining that nothing's been happening. I've been trying to rally you, and I'm pretty confident now we can say things were happening. Preparation was happening. People whine about Cash and Dan Bongino with the FBI not doing anything. Yes, they were. They were taking pieces off the board. You can't just go after the kings and the whole big corruption and conspiracy thing. You have to go after the lower ranking pieces first. Remove them, so then you can go after the kings. The pawns, if you will. The pawns, the rooks, the knights, and the bishops. The FBI, under Kash Patel's leadership, has taken out so many pedophile rings, human traffickers, gang members, the foot soldiers of the deep state players, the foot soldiers and the foreign militia of the deep state who wanted to really end America's national sovereignty. And Tom Homan and his efforts getting rid of the deporting all the illegals, that was part of it too. Alpha Warrior makes a great point here. Trump said I said it would start when President Trump hit 11.3 on his Truth Social. 11.3 has been verified. I guess I'm just lucky. So 11.3 is a sign often mentioned by Q on the Q posts, QAnon. There's really no QAnon. There's Q and then the anons to respond to Q or like whoever he or she or it is. But 11.3 is a marker saying things will happen. What is 11.3? It could be like a date. It could be like November 3rd. Or it could be, there's like several possible meanings to 11.3, and maybe this is one of them. I mean, they could all be true at once. So there's that. Brandy with a B posts that the reason Democrats are losing their mind over Maduro is simple. The systems that made elections easy to manipulate are being dismantled. No more too big to rake. Honest elections are coming back. And she's got a video of nonsense that happened in 2020. Things that I got dinged on YouTube for telling the truth about, and fine by me. I've always gotten more views on Rumble, so have at her, YouTube. Have at it, Google. Here's another big development. In case you don't realize what just happened, Venezuela holds the largest oil reserves in the world at 300 billion barrels. The U.S. is now running Venezuela, with huge U.S. oil companies moving in, according to Trump. The U.S. now controls the largest oil reserve in the world. And just think how much of that's going to eliminate the national debt. Adam Kabisi goes further. He says, the irony of last night's events in Venezuela. It'll likely push oil prices even lower. Markets have been on edge about geopolitical tensions between the U.S. and Venezuela for weeks now. However, President Trump has confirmed that Venezuela's oil infrastructure was not damaged last night. On top of this, President Trump says the U.S. will be very much involved in Venezuela's oil industry going forward, and China is going to get oil. In 2010, Venezuela was producing over 3 million barrels of oil per day, now down to 900,000. If the U.S. truly takes control of Venezuela's oil industry, much more supplies come into the market. Oil and gas prices would head much lower, and we're going to go full steam ahead because climate change has been debunked. I mean, the only people insisting that climate change is a threat is the unelected installed leaders of foreign countries who pretend use it as a false premise or cover story to clamp down on farmers and the economy and try to clamp down on depopulation. So yes. So within hours of the operation taking place, there were protesters in New York City saying, "Let Maduro go." Bill Ackman points out, protesters who were paid should be required to disclose that they are being paid and by whom. Protests and political speech advertising. Why are they exempt from the same disclosures required for political advertising? So I think I got some videos by Nate Friedman actually interviewing these protesters. Hopefully X will not, hide them from me, because the bookmarks feature is kind of weird. Like, I tried to, organize these into bookmarks because it's like a hassle to like go from tab to tab, but sometimes X the folders, it plays with me. Pam Bondi, I still stand by her, says unsealed indictment. Thank you, U.S. Attorney Jay Clayton. Let's just click on this. We'll read the first few paragraphs. Oh, okay, gotta say I'm not a robot. United States District Court, Southern District of New York. So that's a federal court. Sealing the superseded indictment. Nicolas Maduro Moros, Diosdado Cabello Rondon, Ramon Rodriguez Chacin. Okay. Introduction. For over 25 years, leaders of Venezuela have abused their positions of public trust and corrupted once legitimate institutions to import tons of cocaine into the United States. Nicolas Maduro Moros, the defendant, is at the forefront of that corruption and has partnered with his co-conspirators to use his illegally obtained authority and the institution he corroded to transport thousands of tons of cocaine to the United States. Since his early days in Venezuelan government, Maduro Moros has tarnished every public office he has held. As member of Venezuela's National Assembly, Maduro Moros moved loads of cocaine under the protection of the Venezuelan law enforcement. As Venezuela's Minister of Foreign Affairs, Maduro Moros provided Venezuelan diplomatic passports to drug traffickers and facilitated diplomatic cover for planes used by money launderers to repatriate drug proceeds from Mexico to Venezuela. As Venezuela's president and now de facto ruler, Maduro Moros allows cocaine-fueled corruption to flourish for his own benefit, for the benefit of members of his ruling regime, and for the benefit of his family members. So this indictment is 25 pages long. We won't read the whole thing, but that's like the main point. That's like the main drive of this arrest. But there's so much more to it. I mean, there's so much more going on, and we're going to cover that in all these posts here. Now, Maria Machado, according to this post by Disclose, she was the winner of the Nobel Peace Prize last year. She was an opposition leader. She clearly won the last election, even though Maduro stole it. She has lots of support from a lot of, I guess, globalist leaders. And she dedicated her Nobel Prize to President Trump. So I don't know what to make of her yet. I haven't seen enough posts or evidence that I trust to say she's globalist stooge. Globalist meaning a New World Order stooge or Babylonian stooge. But Trump thinks it would be very tough for Maria Machado to be Venezuela's leader as she lacks the support or respect within the country, and says the U.S. is going to take back the oil that, frankly, we should have taken back a long time ago. Let's listen to this. This is from his press conference yesterday, by the way. That was a big concern because of the Iraq War. I mean, I'm old enough to remember the invasion. We took the country within weeks. Then we were in there for like 15 or 20 years because we were trying to like build the nation up. And it took so long because it was a disaster because we were really under false pretenses. Like I supported the mission of bringing democracy to that country and ending Saddam Hussein's program of weapons of mass destruction. Turns out that was a false premise. We were really after the gold because Saddam wanted to sell oil in currency besides US dollars. That wasn't well known at the time because, the conservative movement was all about weapons of mass destruction and Saddam's ties to terrorism. The anti-war movement at the time didn't even mention, the petrodollar. So at that time, when I was a young, naive college student, I thought, okay, let's take this bastard out. But nothing was as it seemed. Only a few people really understood, and they were drowned out by the Project Mockingbird at the time. So let's continue with this clip here. So I'm sure other posts are going to mention this, but I don't think Trump and team would have gone in Venezuela if they didn't have a plan in place, like if they weren't prepared for a transition already and kept secret by the media flax. I mean, some are saying that Trump made a deal with Maduro to actually take him in. We're gonna see posts supporting that, but our Black Hawk helicopters, they're not super fast. I just heard that on Brahma Bull's live stream a few minutes ago, but our Black Hawk helicopters went in undetected. How much you want to bet that there was some preparation before? There was like some hacking, there was some deals made with Venezuela's regime to look the other way. It's the art of war. The victory is won before the fight begins. And Rasmussen reports points that out. Why are attacking forces getting no apparent return ground fire? Could anti-aircraft defenses have already been neutralized? Nobody appears to be shooting back, and they're commenting on Amuse. Trump is reported to have ordered attacks on the Maduro regime. Multiple helicopters, including AH-64 Apaches and CH-47 Chinooks, were seen flying low over Caracas with at least 7 explosions. So, and I wish these posts were in order, but I don't know, for some reason, X doesn't allow that. But Amuse again, saying, Venezuela. Trump posted a video on Truth Social on Dominion voting machine fraud. Coincidence or timing? A Venezuelan military intelligence whistleblower says the CIA outsourced election rigging tech like Smartmatic and Dominion from Venezuela. So this video is 5.5 minutes long. I think it's going to be worth listening to. Okay, so Dominion isn't just electronic voting machines. It's PDF files for paper ballots, apparently. But they're a third party that purports to verify ballots or print ballots. What's going on? So I think what that forensic expert was saying was a lot of these votes were copies. They're like printed, like Xeroxed or something like that. And you can tell because they all have the same like little imperfections here and there. Yep. That's because the courts would not hear any. They would barely hear any election interference cases. I think. Well, I know there was a trial between Carrier Lake and Katie Hobbs in Arizona. I remember listening to a podcast between Sebastian Gorka and Razorfist about that, but I don't think anything came of that. Like Razorfist was astonished there was a court case at all, so that just sticks in my mind. Clandestine. Perhaps it's a better way to explain it. So he's summing up the whole situation here. South America has historically been used as a playground for the CIA deep state to engage in racketeering. Destabilized and low-functioning nations are the only place the CIA playbook can work. So Trump is bringing stability to nations and regions that past U.S. administrations have destabilized and destroyed. If there's no stability, the deep state cannot operate. Therefore, Trump is going to neutralize those causing the instability, i.e. the cartels. Trump is essentially undoing decades of damage caused by the deep state and creating a new world the way it should be. So the line I've heard in a nutshell, the CIA is responsible for overthrows and coups all around the world. And the USA in 2020 was their masterpiece. The fortified election of Joe Biden. Fortified election. I will never say Biden was legitimately elected. I'll never say he was the president unless I'm quoting someone else. And if YouTube doesn't like that, like I said, I get more views on Rumble. Now, here's something important. This is GBPH, reminded that Nicolas Maduro recently disclosed that 85% of the cartel's money is laundered through the U.S. banking system. I think this is Spanish, but let's... Okay, for those of you who can't read it, for those of you who can't read subtitles, I'll read it. 85% of the billions from international drug trafficking each year is in banks in the United States. That's where the cartel is. Let them investigate and cover it. That's what Maduro himself is saying. Money laundering, asks the interviewer. Look, I was reviewing the data the vice president shared. And I believe it's over $500 billion annually. That's in the U.S. banking system, in legal banks. How much you want to bet JP Morgan Chase is part of that? The same bank that wouldn't get rid of Epstein. If they want to investigate a cartel, let them investigate the cartel up north. Because it's from the United States that all drug trafficking is directed. From South America and from the rest of the world. They also control the opium trade and so on. Opium is from Asia. Think Afghanistan, think poppy fields. It's in the United States where the mafias are, where the real cartels are. Okay, that's the end of it. But Maduro is pointing the finger at the deep state in America. Not the legitimate government that the founding fathers gave us, but the deep state criminal syndicate that's posing as our current government. Brian Cates rails against the criminal syndicate all the time. He calls them a criminal syndicate. Like, he makes a great point, and something I've made similar arguments. Communists, Muslim terrorists, jihadists, they pretend to have ideologies, but they're really criminal syndicates in disguise. It's not right to call communists ideologues. They're a criminal organization. So Digital Soldier. Oh yeah, he made this great thread here, and I do think it's worth reading the whole thing because it'll set the tone for everything else. The Maduro maneuver. What the Maduro extraction reveals about U.S. power projection in real time. A complete breakdown of what just happened in Venezuela and why the world just changed forever. Newsflash, the headline is the story. It's the signal. On January 3rd, 2026, Donald J. Trump confirmed it himself. Nicolas Maduro is on board the USS Iwo Jima. That's not just breaking news. That's a turning point in the 21st century information war. Maduro, the dictator of a collapsed cartel-controlled narco state, was captured by U.S. forces and is now under American custody. Fox confirmed, Trump confirmed, the operation is done. But if you think it was just about Maduro, you missed the real story. Is there more to this story? Okay. The mission objective: collapse the deep state South American stronghold. This wasn't a stunt. This was a calculated regime change with one purpose: crack open the gateway through which trafficking, terrorism, foreign proxies, and election tampering flowed. Venezuela was never just a failed state. It was an operational hub. And Maduro, he was a keystone asset for decades, in a decades-old deep state laundering and destabilization network. So what happens when the public gets cut loose? Let's find out. What this really means: we're not looking at headlines, we're looking at patterns. This is what happens when you connect the dots, calmly, clearly, and through verified sequence. Cartoon of Trump enforcing the Monroe Doctrine, the update of the Monroe Doctrine. This was never just about Maduro. It was about dismantling a functioning deep state ecosystem. Cartel trafficking control anchor, a corridor anchor, petro-weaponized economic instability, foreign proxy deals with China, Russia, and Iran, a long-running CIA puppet regime turned rogue. Maduro wasn't toppled by words. He was extracted by a system that had already mapped his replacement. The CIA may no longer be a rogue actor, so the CIA was the tool of overthrowing governments around the world. John Ratcliffe, Trump's former director of national intelligence, was seen at his side during this operation. John Ratcliffe is the new CIA director under Trump, in Trump's second term. That's not optics, that's confirmation. The intelligence network, once used for color revolutions and regime destabilization, is now being used to undo the damage it helped cause. That's not just a strategy, that's a reversal at scale. JFK attempted to do this, Trump just did it. Yeah, JFK famously said he's going to splinter, I think it was CIA, the four winds, and he was taken out for it. We've covered that before. Look at the pressure points running through Venezuela. Cocaine to the U.S., oil pipelines to foreign adversaries, cartel proxies destabilizing the region, voting system DNA exported globally, oil money pipelines to foreign adversaries, cartel proxy activity destabilizing Central America, voting system architecture with Venezuelan DNA. Once you understand Venezuela was the central nervous system, you realize why Trump hit it first. Collapse the hub, destabilize the deep state network. The Monroe Doctrine just came back, loudly. We're going to take back the oil we should have taken back a long time ago. This wasn't just an energy comment. This was the clearest enforcement of the Monroe Doctrine we've seen in decades, with military precision. Trump didn't just revive it. He enforced it with military extraction on foreign soil. That's not rhetoric, that's power projection. Because Venezuela's oil infrastructure was originally built by U.S. and British companies, or it was either American-British companies or investments. So that's the whole reason Venezuela has an oil industry. So by rights, we should be in control of it. So the Monroe Doctrine, proclaimed by President James Monroe in 1823, was a U.S. foreign policy warning European powers against further colonization or interference in the Western Hemisphere, asserting the Americas as separate spheres of influence and a U.S. domain, establishing a cornerstone for the U.S. expansion and dominance in the region by preventing new colonies and viewing interventions as threats. Those are interpretation evolved over time to justify U.S. involvement. Key principles: non-colonization. Americas are closed to future European colonization. Non-interference. European powers should not interfere in the affairs of independent nations in the Americas. Separate spheres. Western Hemisphere, Americas, and the Eastern Hemisphere, Europe, are distinct, with the U.S. pledging not to meddle in European politics. So that ended probably with the World War I, but that's probably a whole other can of worms that we got to talk about sometime. Continuing with Digital Soldier, this was phase 2, stability before prosecution. Hat tip to Taylor Tracy and her 2 fire articles on Venezuela and Maduro, links to her ex-posts, and Soul Sovereign 17 for her sharp breakdown on Trump's 2025 national security strategy. I don't know if we have time to read those, but he says both were early, both laid the runway, both saw the signal days and weeks before the headlines. You don't get justice that lasts until you stabilize the system. You don't prosecute until the pressure valve is shut. You're wondering why we haven't seen arrests? It's because we can't trust the judges. We've seen how wacky they act. So we got to take care of the judges first. We got to take care of the civilian courts, or either remove them and move to military tribunals. You don't move until logistics are mapped and ownership is provable. Ownership is provable. Until then, you move with precision. That's exactly what this was. So I forgot what I was going to say, so let's continue here. Venezuela and the election system. Let's revisit the facts that don't go away that were confirmed long before this moment. Venezuela didn't just collapse, it was emptied. Criminal networks filled the vacuum. Cartels, proxies, and corruption ruled the region. Playground for deep state actors. Smartmatic was born there. Election software created in Venezuela in 2000. Managed Chavez's 2004 referendum. Allegations of fraud came from the engineers themselves. It rebranded, fragmented, and entered the U.S. Smartmatic tech ended up in multiple U.S. election jurisdictions. Interface with Dominion, ES&S, and more. Official contracts confirm it. The U.S. government knew it was a threat. In 2006, a CFIUS investigated and forced Smartmatic to divest. Foreign election tech was recognized as a national security issue. By 2020, those vulnerabilities remained. No unified election system equals no centralized security. Same code base, same architecture, different logos. Department of Homeland Security confirmed it, but only after the election. The system report in 2022 confirmed vulnerabilities in Dominion systems, widely released, never elevated. Whistleblowers came forward and were ignored. Venezuelan insiders, sworn affidavits, technical breakdowns, provided to the media and Trump's team buried under disinformation labels. Venezuela isn't a closed system. It's a foreign influence corridor. Cartels, China, Iran, Russia, Belt and Road, all plugged into a broken nation running on instability. Courts never examined the full system. No full forensic audit of code bases or transnational dependencies. Most cases dismissed on standing, not merit. Smartmatic's origin never reopened in court. And now, Venezuela is back in the spotlight. Narco boats are sunk. Border pressure is rising. Dictator extracted. The original pressure valve just got shut. For those of you in Rio Linda, an old Rush Limbaugh reference, you're watching history. But don't get distracted by the headlines. The capture of Maduro is the visible part. The signal is what confirms beneath the surface. Images of the operation show the real transition point, where force gives way to process. Custody isn't theater, it's procedure. This is what restoration of the state authority looks like. Quiet, controlled, institutional, and governed by law. Venezuela isn't a fluke, it was a hub. A narco state, a cartel proxy, a foreign weapon, an election tech origin point, all rolled into one. Trump didn't just take down a dictator, he severed a corruption pipeline that ran deep into America. Maybe the CIA isn't running ops against America anymore. Maybe, just maybe, America is using its own systems to protect itself again. And the deep state, they just lost their southern flank. The global chessboard just changed. This is what future-proof's past looks like. Not a press release, not a speech, a signal. And here's a photo of Maduro being purple-walked. And digital soldier continues. One that confirms the system isn't stuck, it's stabilizing. And it's doing it without making noise. The real takeaway is understanding that President Trump's authority has never relied on public announcement. With Trump, power signals quietly, through institutions, through language, through omission. The action comes later, and then he may only recognize the signal once it's already too late. Digi, full breakdown, laid out step by step on his Substack. So, very good rundown. Now X just jumbled up the post for me, but we got to talk about Iran. We haven't forgotten about Iran. We got to talk about Iran because it's such a huge hub also, and it's worth. And the Iranian people are worth supporting. Michael O'Fallon points out to he's tagging Mark Levin and Glenn Beck. The greatest effect that regime change in Iran would be on China's long-term strategic plans of the Belt and Road initiatives, China, Central Asia, Western Asia corridor. By linking railway networks from China to the Mediterranean Sea, this CCP economic corridor enhances the connectivity between China, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Uzbekistan, Tajikistan, Turkmenistan, Iran, and Turkey. In addition to investing in rail, China is also developing roads and other infrastructure points that could transform the economies of Central Asia, which only have limited trade relations at present. Also, remember that the key nation for the clearinghouse of Chinese RMB in the Middle East is Qatar, which has established clearing centers to facilitate trade investment that will lead the way for BRICS and multipolarity. Qatar was the first Middle East nation to launch a Chinese yuan clearing center, which opened in April 14, 2015. The Doha branch of the Industrial and Commercial Bank of China was appointed as the official clearing bank, and the center handles a significant volume of transactions. The initiative was supported by a currency swap deal between the Chinese and Qatari central banks. So you can see on the map here. Yeah, in ancient times, all through the Middle Ages, the Silk Road was the trade route between China and the Roman Empire, and then between China and Europe. It went through Iran, which we used to call Persia, and that made the Persian Empire very, very wealthy at the time. It looks like China wants to rebuild that Silk Road on its own terms. So a regime change in Iran, where we get rid of the Ayatollah and make it a U.S. ally again, would be very, very important. What does that have to do with Venezuela? Well, we just read that Iran was involved in Venezuela, probably as I've heard Benjamin Netanyahu say that Iran has proxies in Venezuela. It's not just a threat to the Middle East; it's a threat to the Western Hemisphere as well. I don't know if I have that bookmarked, or we'll see later. So I already read that. Continuing with Iran here, Sun Tzu says this gives you an idea of what he meant when Q said it will not be safe for them to walk the streets. Imagine what happens on the streets of America when the veil gets fully ripped off about child sexual exploitation by many political and business leaders in the U.S. And he's responding to this post by War Horizon. Entire families are out fighting battles with Iranian security forces. Mainstream media isn't even reporting on any of it. So pray for your boomer family members to still get all their information from cable news. Fox News, CNN, MSNBC, they're all frauds. I mean, I hate to say that about Fox, but if the 2020 election didn't open your eyes to Fox, then I don't know how to reach you. Only God can do that at this point. Now, there's been a lot of criticism of Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of Defense, now Secretary of War, and this is why. Because he runs the Department of War like a master. Dion Joseph says, I'm going to echo what someone else just said and add to it. The left said this man was unqualified because of imperfections in his personal life. This same man just managed the following with razor-sharp precision. Successful operation in the Panama Canal, increased the ranks of our military, shut down Iran's nuclear prowess, smacked Muslim extremists in Nigeria, causing them to return hostages. Oh yeah, the massacre in Nigeria, can't forget that. Took out Venezuelan military bases and captured their leader without killing him. No soldiers killed in any operation. He should be applauded. Pete Hegseth, keep up the good work. Yep, he's our man. Addy points out in Iran, Israel launched a cyber attack on surveillance cameras across Iran to prevent the regime from identifying protesters. Protests against the Iranian regime are ongoing. Israeli flag. So yeah, Israeli and Netanyahu, they're true partners and friends, true of the United States. If you're mad about Israel and all the shit that it's done, ask yourself. James Lindsay has made this point. Are you really mad at Benjamin Netanyahu and his faction, or are you mad at Ehud Barak and his faction? Netanyahu is effectively the Trump of Israel. Ehud Barak is effectively the Obama of Israel. Do not judge a country as a single monolith. Judge it by its individual citizens. There are some dipshit Israelis. There are some dipshit Jews. But there are also lots of splendid, wonderful, God-fearing, law-abiding Jews and Israelis. So they are worth being friends with. They're worth being allies with. You know, Julia Green Ministries, I watch her every day. God talks to her, and God tells her that, you know, Netanyahu's on the up and up. So there. Okay, I said we get to this. Nate Friedman, on the ground in New York City, and confirms the Hands Off Venezuela protest is paid. He confirms it's the People's Forum NGO funding it, which is backed by a CCP linked billionaire living in China. $20 million funding the protest. So let's listen. Okay, let's read this caption here. But a review of public disclosure forms shows that multimillionaire Singham Reed and his wife Evans have donated over $20.4 million to the People's Forum from 2017 to 2022 through a series of shell organizations and donor advisory groups, accounting for nearly all the group's funding. Thank you. Won't deny it. Nice. So yeah, most left-wing protests. Think of No Kings. Think of anti-war protests during Iraq. Think of the Women's March in Trump's first term. You wonder why they protest and don't have jobs. Well, protesting is their job. They get paid to do this. They're rent mobs. Rush Limbaugh was bitching about them. Brett was belly aching about them for decades, and he had their number. Okay, land strikes in Venezuela have begun. A drug manufacturing facility was destroyed. President Trump confirmed this first strike on land by the administration. This is from December 29th, so the backing Maduro was a long time coming. And notice Netanyahu's with him. So coming back to Iran, this is Eric Metaxas. He wrote a great biography of Dietrich Bonhoeffer, who was a Christian dissident in Germany during World War II. Eric Metaxas says, many in Iran have miraculously come to Christian faith in the last decade and have been praying for this moment. Join me in praying for Iran right now. So I don't know what language this is in, but let's listen. Oh, there's no sound. Okay. And I can't read that because it's a different language, but we'll have to take Eric's word for it. Now, I got several mobilization posts in this folder. We have to go back in time because this bagging Maduro wasn't just spur of the moment. This has been coming, and a lot of the preparation has been done inside this country by taking out the pawns like the illegal aliens and the drug boats. We've been taking care of like foot soldiers in our country and then expanding outward. Amuse says reimmigration. For what it's worth, ICE isn't randomly picking up brown people. They're using tech from Palantir to track illegals via cell, credit card, and even Uber. They know where all the criminal aliens are. It's just a matter of picking them up. So yeah, there's the lie from the left, and you know it's a lie because the left is saying it, is that ICE is picking up legal immigrants. And we know that's false because Elon Musk made a presentation on Social Security numbers back in, I think it was March or April. So ICE and Trump's team know who's who. This post mentioned Palantir. Palantir is a lot of people are worried about Palantir spying on us. Palantir, like the CIA, has been flipped. I have theory. I made posts like hinting at it. I kind of wonder if certain individuals like tech CEOs or even Dr. Fauci or big pharma CEOs or politicians may have been arrested and tried and forced into involuntary servitude rather than prison. If you read the 13th Amendment, it forbids involuntary servitude except as punishment for a crime. This was after the Civil War and slavery was abolished. So, but the 13th Amendment can be taken as meaning involuntary servitude is a lawful punishment for crime. And if certain people have been tried and convicted under military tribunals that we don't know about, it's possible that they have been dealt with, and certain key players have been forced to turn their systems, like Palantir or the CIA, what have you, into tools for MAGA, for the Patriots, for the White Hats. Now, if you're clamoring for arrests and people going to prison, keep that in mind, because maybe they have been arrested. And if you're don't think of only going to prison. Don't think of involuntary servitude limited to just like making license plates or chain gangs. It could be that the bad guys are being punished and taken care of and used to serve our purposes, the Patriots' purposes. Nyberg, she's been posting a lot about Iran. I don't know what side she's on, because in one post she'll praise Israel, and in another post she'll criticize them and take them to task. And it's like, okay, but she's posting some factual things here, and she says, right now, the sky above West Tehran, what's happening? This was early today, 8 hours ago. Well, it looks like a missile attack. All right. I don't know what music that was, but Iran is heating up. So I would definitely pray Psalm 91 for the people of Iran. And I would pray maybe Psalm 34 and 33 and see off the top of my head. I've got a list of Psalms that I pray as part of my daily routine. I need to make another video record about that. But Psalm 91 definitely. Now, this is Cynical Publius from November. He's talking about the drug boats and the Venezuelan drug boats being taken out, and he compares this to Thomas Jefferson taking on the Barbary pirates back in the day. Democrats alleging that blowing up Venezuelan drug boats is an unlawful order. The Marines' battle hymn starts with these lines: "From the halls of Montezuma to the shores of Tripoli." Do you know what that second line means? It refers to the war with the Barbary pirates. The Barbary pirates were a raiding group of true pirates who captured American and European ships off the North African coast, stole the ships and cargo, and enslaved and ransomed the crews. The pirates were generally under the control of the Ottoman Tripolitania, and many were true privateers, i.e. civilian ships and civilian crews causing great harm to American interests. So President Thomas Jefferson sent the Navy and the Marine Corps to North Africa to blow those private ships and crews the hell out of the water. Thomas Jefferson didn't have predator drones like Trump is using to blow narco-terrorists out of the water, who are trying to slaughter hundreds of thousands of Americans with fentanyl. But Jefferson did have some kick-ass Marines to blow pirates out of the water who were enslaving American citizens, right on the shores of Tripoli. Hence the song. But Democrats are too stupid to know what that means. America, blowing up civilian ships since 1801, all to protect America. So how about it, you lobotomite Democrats? Were Tommy J's orders lawful or unlawful? We all know the answer, even though you won't admit it. Lawful. Just like Trump's lawful preservation of American lives from the scourge of fentanyl. Learn a little history, Democrat goons. Now, go write the Marines hymn 5,000 times on the blackboard until you learn your lesson. Very good. Back today, we're going to return to a clandestine. Clandestine says, something very important is happening. The public are beginning to trust the U.S. military again. I mean, it took a hit after the Iraq War. They just witnessed the two most surgical military operations of all time in Venezuela and Iran. Remember, we took out Iran's nuclear facilities, with zero U.S. military and zero civilian casualties. Building trust with the public is necessary for what comes later, when Trump invokes the Insurrection Act and sends U.S. military to cities nationwide. If the U.S. military are going to conduct mass arrests, the public will need to trust them and trust Trump. For those asking why Trump is arresting Maduro before arresting treasonous actors in the U.S., I think there's a method to the madness. The high-profile U.S. arrests will likely be towards the end, after more of the public are fully brought in on the operation to dismantle the deep state. Arresting people is the easy part. Convincing billions of people that high-profile individuals, including former heads of state, need to be arrested, that's the tricky part. There's a clip of, I think, the Ghost Machine. Let's watch the first Look at this. If your opponent is of choleric temper, seek to irritate him. Pretend to be weak, that he may grow arrogant. Sun Tzu, Art of War. Have you ever wondered who things? Division. Warfare is evolving. Fifth generation warfare, we're in it. All the world's a stage. Go through the machine. What are we? Okay, I'm glad I watched the whole thing. You saw that patch with the ghost on it? That was of the Ghost Division. I think, if I remember right, it was like a secret division during World War II of American forces that played tricks on the Nazis like nothing else. Like we couldn't have pulled off the invasion without the Ghost Division softening up the Nazis and making them think one thing and when we were doing another. I think they made things like inflatable. They had inflatable tanks to make the Germans think we were one place when we were really somewhere else. That's just one example of what the Ghost Division did, if I remember right. So, psychological warfare psychological warfare works. Unconventional warfare works, and that's what Trump is doing. Trump and the military are doing right now. I mean, the the theory is that the military actually asked Trump to run for president, and he has their backing. They have military intelligence, which is the alternative to the CIA and FBI and NSA, the three-letter orgs. Military intelligence is far superior morally to the three-letter agencies. Okay, we got a lot to go here. Amuse again. Former Venezuelan intel chief says Maduro exported gangs into the U.S. during Biden's border collapse and has run 2 decades of espionage against America. In a stunning letter obtained by Dallas Express, Hugo Carvajal, once Maduro's top intelligence chief and a key figure in the Cartel de las Soles, tells President Trump that Venezuela has weaponized cocaine, exported criminal gangs like Tren de Aragua into the U.S. Remember Tren de Aragua, who were hijacking and taking over apartment complexes in Colorado? Tren de Aragua into the U.S. and allowed FARC, ELN, Hezbollah, a Middle Eastern organization, and Cuban intelligence to operate freely. He alleges decades of espionage inside U.S. installations, Russian tapping proposals, and Smartmatic election manipulation tools exported abroad. Carvajal says the Biden-Harris border collapse allowed Venezuelan operatives to enter the U.S. and asserts Trump's hardline policies were not only correct, but necessary for American national security. And this post was made December 3rd, so over a month ago. So this has been coming. Oh, Vivid, talking about Israel. He makes a funny post here. I've noticed that those who curse Israel are falling one by one. I don't think that's a coincidence. I believe it's God's will at work. Yep. Cartel de las Soles again. This is disclosed to me posting on November 24th. Trump admin designates Cartel de las Soles, comprised of high-ranking Venezuelan military and government officials, as a foreign terrorist organization. Yep. So you got Cartel de las Soles, you got Antifa, you got the Muslim Brotherhood, all designated terrorist organizations. That enables a lot of action to be done. I think I have a post of Dr. Steve Turley about that, unless X hides it from me. Sean Parnell, posting on December 1st, says, what was confirmed is that the Washington Post and CNN peddled a fake news narrative that Secretary Hegseth gave some sort of kill all survivors order. That is a dangerous and irresponsible lie, and you should be ashamed for pushing it. So, yep. He's responding to Ted Lieu, supposed senator, I think. I'm not going to read that. Clandestine, posting on December 29th, says, why do you think one of the first things Trump did was use Doge to shut down USAID? Remember that? Because the Dems plan to use their Soros color revolution model to fund mass riots and chaos. You thought BLM was bad? Imagine we arrested Obama without cutting off their money supply. So yeah, if you wonder why we haven't had arrests, one is the judges and one is the army, the foot soldiers. We've got to take them out first. That's what Kash Patel has been doing, along with Tom Homan. Tom Homan has been taking out the illegal aliens. Kash Patel has been taking out the human traffickers, child traffickers, and such, and following the money. News Treason Channel 17, posting on December 28th, says, one of the greatest possible boomerangs we have seen yet. Folks freaked out when SCOTUS rejected Trump's bid to send the National Guard to Chicago, but as usual, the devil's in the details. They just opened the door to the Insurrection Act. Supreme Court Justices Samuel Alito and Neil Gorsuch both referenced the Insurrection Act in their dissents of the decision, blocking President Donald Trump's administration from deploying National Guard troops in Illinois to support its immigration agenda. A key order in question is 10 U.S.C. 12406 3, a statute that states the president may call into federal service members and units of the National Guard in cases when the U.S. is being invaded, there's rebellion against the authority of the U.S. government, or the president is unable to execute the law with regular forces. Keyword, regular forces. At this preliminary stage, the government has failed to identify a source of authority that would allow the military to execute the laws in Illinois, the court's majority opinion said. The U.S. Supreme Court's Tuesday decision against Donald Trump's deployment of the National Guard in Illinois has the unintended consequence of potentially pushing the president to deploy active duty military units instead. Legal scholar John Yoo, who previously clerked for conservative Justice Clarence Thomas, said Wednesday, active duty military equals the Marines. What was that 17th letter thing reminding us that the only way is the military? Looks like we may soon find out. So, yeah. Trump and his team have been setting up the Insurrection Act. First, go after the illegal aliens. That entices the blue state mayors and governors to oppose that, to get in the way, to interfere with the lawful use of authorities to remove illegal aliens. That's open rebellion against the authority of the United States government. That's grounds for the Insurrection Act. I mean, but first we got to, clear out the other, foot soldiers and corrupt judges. Clandestine again, posting on November 22nd. Trump is making sure the public understands the severity of what the Dems just did with that seditious video they posted. Oh, remember that seditious six? Those members of Congress who told the military to disobey unlawful orders. Well, what unlawful orders has Trump made? Okay, Trump would be fully within his executive authority to arrest the seditious six and anyone else who was involved. Perhaps a little soft disclosure. And Trump posted on Truth Social: "The traitors that told the military to disobey my orders should be in jail right now, not roaming the fake news networks trying to explain that what they said was okay. It wasn't. It will never be. It will never be. It was sedition at the highest level, and sedition is a major crime. There can be no other interpretation of what they said." Many great legal scholars agree that the Democrat traitors that told the military to disobey my orders as president have committed the crime of serious proportion. Yep. So add them to the pile. Add them up to the enemy combatants. Joshua Reed, posting yesterday, January 3rd, says, "This doesn't look like a man who's being held against his will. You'll soon realize that Maduro asked for this to happen, and it was part of a larger operation." So he's in the pen, and he's giving a 2 thumbs up sign. So you think he made a deal with Trump? You think he wants out of the whole madhouse that is the deep state cabal, the New World Order, the Babylonian system? Okay, Arthur McWaters makes a great point on who we can trust as far as AI. He says, "I asked ChatGPT and Grok whether it was a crime for Trump to arrest Maduro as a common and important question today. ChatGPT said yes. Falsely assumed that Maduro was legitimately elected. Defaulted to referencing the UN Charter and international experts. Has an anti-American slant, both explicitly and implicitly. It sounds like a left-leaning law professor at any Ivy League school." Grok said no. Correctly explained Maduro's fraudulent rule. Explained Trump's power as commander-in-chief to direct the military to execute federal warrants. This is incredibly important to get right, as it will increasingly be the default information layer for society. So, if you're worried about AI becoming sentient and overthrowing us, I'm more concerned about who controls the AI. I mean, Generation Tech on YouTube, they did a great video, relating to Star Wars and why droids never took over the galaxy far, far away. It's because individual owners of droids were responsible for, the droids' actions. So ownership was the key to keeping AI from going out of control. So whoever owns the AI is going to be held responsible. So we want distributed, decentralized ownership of AI, not big corporations or organizations like, OpenAI or Microsoft or whatever. We want to decentralize, which is why I'm a big fan of blockchain technology. If you can create an AI that runs on the blockchain, or if it runs independently on your own computer, like I've heard of things like Olama, and they like Olama. Those are much more preferable to OpenAI or even Grok. I trust Grok right now because I trust Elon Musk, but it's not going to be with us forever. Now, BX, posting on December 2nd, says, "Massive news. 5 members of a 764 network group known as Greggy's Cult have been arrested and face charges for operating a child exploitation enterprise." Have you heard about 764 groups? Cash Patel's FBI has been big on taking those on. They talk about 764 groups all the time. This is one of the biggest busts yet. Busted Hector Bermudez, a.k.a. Fiasco, age 29, of Queens, New York. Zachary Dosh, a.k.a. Moist Nigerian, age 26, of Albuquerque, New Mexico. Romualdo Valdez, a.k.a. Duck, age 22, of Honolulu, Hawaii. David Brilhante, a.k.a. CSGO, age 28, of San Diego, California. And Camden Rodriguez, a.k.a. O'Hare, age 22, of Longmont, Colorado. 5 liters of Greggy charged with sexually exploiting children on the internet. So that's another example of the FBI taking out the foot soldiers. Think also, can we really go after the Epstein's clients? Can we really go after the big dogs if they have hostages? These are child traffickers. These are human traffickers. Surely they have people in chains, in bondage, in custody, as hostages. We have to free the hostages before we can take out the enemy. Consider that. Clandestine again, talking about Washington crossing Delaware again. Fun fact, according to a letter from McConkey's Ferry, George Washington and his men began the air operation crossing the Delaware River at around 6 p.m. Eastern Time on Christmas Day in 1776. Trump's post about his Christmas Day strikes in Nigeria was posted at 5:59 p.m. Eastern. Okay, that is interesting. That's definitely a message. We started getting these messages when Trump announced on December 17th that $1,776 each would be going to American service members. That was definitely a signal. George, aka Behizzy, posting on October, says, breaking, 175,000 Americans have applied for a job at ICE. Wow. So yeah. This video is 6 minutes long, so we won't listen to it, but I have it bookmarked. Promethean Action. So if you want to listen to this, go look up Promethean Action on X. Look for the check mark. Look for the blue check mark. They say, caught on record, British Lord admits Trump's national security strategy has the empire on the ropes and reveals their plan to outlast him. White media screams Trump sold out. The real enemy just confessed they're terrified. Okay, while media screams Trump sold out, the real enemy just confessed they're terrified. Watch what they don't want you to see. So watch this at your own leisure because we don't have time for it. But that's a good point. Amuse again, posting on December 3rd, says, reports say Senator Mark Kelly leaked classified portions of the Pentagon Inspector General's Signalgate findings while his party publicly attacked Hegseth. So you remember that whole leak of chats on the Signal app about Hegseth? That's what this is about. While his party publicly attacked Hegseth, if true, his actions would constitute a violation of the Espionage Act. An internal Pentagon review determined that Pete Hegseth's March 2025 sharing of Yemen strike information over Signal violated departmental rules, but was not illegal to his declassification authority. Sources now say that Senator Mark Kelly disclosed classified elements of what IG report to the Wall Street Journal, while Democratic officials were publicly criticizing Hegseth. The report leak raises questions about the treatment of sensitive oversight documents and the boundary between political messaging and classified materials. So, in short, it was another attack on Hegseth, which was unfounded. January 3rd, this is Sergeant Petrie. Dan, probably referring to Dan Scavino. Dan Scavino is always posting things on social media, hinting at Q posts. So Dan posted this at 11:03 Eastern about the Maduro indictment. Q drop 11:03 tells us that sealed indictments are now unsealed and that more are coming. Q drop 11:03. Sealed to unsealed. Indictments coming. Q. Maduro had to be arrested and indicted first. Why? Money laundering from the Roth Bank of Venezuela. Politicians. Drug trafficking into the U.S. providing kickbacks to the politicians. U.S. cartel funding. Women and children, sex and organ trafficking. Main currency. And, of course, smart mag Dominion voting systems. Remember, he was not supported to win the Venezuelan in 2018 election against Edmundo Gonzalez. Maduro stole with the voting machines. The people went into an all-out rage, rioted in the streets, and Maduro used the Venezuelan military against his own people. Shortly after that, in 2020, Biden fortified the election from the American people and POTUS. Also, what judges were cleaned out recently? The Southern District of New York. That's right. Endgame. It had to be this way. And now, nothing can stop what's coming. The news unlocks. Where we go one, we go all. MAGA. Make Venezuela great again. Q+. Q. Semper Fidelis. Sergeant Petrie. And referring to this Q post. Sealed, unsealed. Indictments coming. So, yep. And that looks like the end of this bookmarks here. So I want to leave another. I want to give you another way to support the channel. I've got another resource for you. I got several resources for you, but let's just go with this here. The right to bear arms is vital to the self-defense of Americans, and it's enshrined in our Second Amendment. But did you know your right to privacy is just as important? If criminals, corporations, or even the government learned your secrets, you'd be at their mercy. That's why the Fourth Amendment protects Americans and requires law enforcement to obtain warrants before they search you. The bad news is, online, big tech colludes with government to bypass the Fourth Amendment. This was revealed in the Twitter files. The good news is, you can guard your online privacy with a VPN. VPN stands for Virtual Private Network, and it masks your computer's IP address and browsing history. I'm proud to partner with NordVPN, the industry leader. With one NordVPN account, you can guard multiple electronic devices. You can share files between your protected devices, and you can set your VPN to other countries. That way you can access content that's not available in your region. Again, that's NordVPN, the #1 VPN in the world. Click on my link and protect yourself from prying eyes. %80 of Americans injected a dangerous drug that they were told would protect them from COVID-19. Instead of protection, millions have suffered blood clots, altered personalities, reproductive dysfunction, and more. If you're like me, you're outraged by what was done to you. You don't have to admit you were wrong. You can admit you were lied to by your doctor, your employer, even your church, by every institution that should have had your back. The good news is there are remedies waiting to be rolled out. President Trump, Vice President Vance, Elon Musk, Dan Bongino have taken the COVID shot, and they're working confidently to make America great again. They know something. Until the world is ready, preparations are being made by true conscientious medical professionals. They're building alternatives to the medical establishment that betrayed us. One of those alternatives is the Wellness Company, and I'm honored to be one of their referral partners. They provide multiple supplements to help detox from the COVID shots. They also provide medical kits with ivermectin, the antiviral and anti-parasite medication that Big Pharma dreads. Follow the Wellness Company in the research until we're made whole and on to the new health paradigm. Click on the link and use my promo code for 10% off your purchase. Reclaim your health. Okay, I want to wrap up here, and we got this post by Tony on here with a great message about what's happening. Don't say anything negative about President. Just pray for him, because God is using that man outside of your understanding. So let's listen to this minister talk about Trump and how God is using him. Nice. Because if you really read the scripture, if you really read the Bible, both the Old Testament and the New Testament, God works through his people. The Holy Spirit comes into them and they become his agents. He did it with Moses, he did it with Joseph, he did it with Joshua. He especially did it with David. He did it with the apostles, he did it with Samson, he did it with so many. And he can do it with you. He's definitely doing it with President Trump. God is with Joshua, God was with David, and God is with Trump. So pray that he can be with you too. I mean, and if you question whether killing enemies violently is biblical, I mean, go read Psalm 7. The Psalms are prayers written down in scripture that are in agreement with God. And when I discovered Psalm 7 verse 12, I felt so much, vindication, because it says, if one does not repent, God will whet his sword. He is bent strong his bow. So we're supposed to forgive our enemies. But if they're not sorry, if they don't repent, then you're off to look for forgiving them. You don't have to reconcile with them. You can remove them. So I'll leave you with that. So I'm going to let you go. Again, if you find this content valuable, please give it a like, follow me, or subscribe to me, and share this with friends and loved ones. I'm Nate Houseman, letting you know, more than ever, it's okay to stand up for yourself. Over and out.